10 Stoic lessons for dealing with disrespect. Not to be missed. Stoicism. Disrespect doesn't always show itself in shouting. Sometimes it lives in silence, in the gaze that no longer meets yours, in a cold reply, in the calculated gesture of ignoring someone's presence, someone who was once seen with attention. And this absence of care, of validation, of recognition, hurts in a way few understand. There's a type of pain that doesn't cause a scandal, but crumbles you from within. It's the pain of being diminished by small daily gestures, of having your words interrupted, your affection disregarded, your existence treated as if it were a minor detail. And over time, even unwillingly, you start to believe in this diminishment. You ask yourself, is it me? And you try to do more. You try to be better. You try to earn respect that should already be a given, but it doesn't come. And the more you try, the more exhausted you become. The more you move away from yourself, in an attempt to be recognized by someone who doesn't know or doesn't want to recognize anyone. Seneca used to say, "It is foolish to waste on fools what is our most precious good, peace." But in daily life, foolishness disguises itself as hope. We stay there, waiting for an attitude to change, for a glance to return, for respect to come back like a debt that someone, one day, will have the decency to pay. Epictetus, more directly, reminded us, what matters is not what they do to us, but what we do with what they do to us. And this truth, though uncomfortable, is liberating, because it puts the power back in our hands, not to control the other, but to decide what we do with what we receive. So I ask you, with respect and sincerity, what in you still hurts from not being seen as you deserve? Where does the lack of recognition still ache? What part of you still tries to prove your worth to someone who can't see beyond themselves? Perhaps it's time to become silent, not as an escape, but as a shield, to leave the noise outside and turn inward, where respect truly begins, where it doesn't need to be asked for, because it stems from how you learn to sustain yourself, even when no one else acknowledges your true stature. 1. The silent mistake of trying to deserve respect. There's a deeply rooted idea that traps those who feel too much, that respect is earned, as if it were a bargaining chip, as if being kind, efficient, dedicated, would automatically result in recognition from the other. But it's not like that, and it never was. Respect, while it may seem like a reward, is much more a reflection of the giver's character than of the receiver's. And when you have to try too hard to be respected, perhaps you're already in the wrong place, or in front of someone who can't recognize value, neither in others nor in themselves. This proving your worth trap is insidious, because it creates a silent anxiety. You start measuring every word, every gesture. You start working double, giving what you don't have, silencing what you feel. And all this with the hope that one day the other person will notice. But what you lose in this process is yourself. Stoicism isn't a cold philosophy. It's a practice of integrity, of maintaining your stance even when the world around you disrespects your presence. Stoic wisdom teaches that we shouldn't seek control over what's outside, but over how we maintain ourselves internally. So perhaps the respect you seek isn't about convincing anyone, but about stopping trying, about maintaining your uprightness not as a plea for acceptance, but as an expression of who you've decided to be, regardless of the other's view. Because in the end, the biggest mistake isn't being disrespected, it's disrespecting yourself in an attempt to be accepted. 2. When disrespect isn't a shout, it's indifference. There are forms of disrespect that leave no visible marks, but still bleed internally. It's not the shout that wounds, it's the silence. It's the disregard. It's the gaze that passes right through you, as if you were invisible. The absence of response, the neutrality that feels like disguised rejection. And this, day after day, erodes your sense of belonging. Indifference is not neutrality, it's silent contempt. It's when the other person chooses not to see, not to hear, not to consider. It's a way of dehumanizing without raising their voice, as if your pain were an exaggeration, as if your presence were a detail, as if nothing you say or feel really mattered. And faced with this, the temptation is to react, to shout, to demand, to force a reaction. But Marcus Aurelius reminds us, you have power over your mind, not over external events. And this changes everything, because when provocation comes, the greatest demonstration of strength isn't in an immediate response, but in the silent firmness of one who chooses their own balance. Maintaining composure isn't being passive, it's being mature. It's understanding that your energy is too sacred to be spent trying to convince someone who has already decided not to listen. It's making your serenity a refuge, not a weakness. Because if disrespect tries to snatch your dignity, your calm is the shield that prevents this theft. You don't need to react to everything. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. Sometimes the greatest response is the silence that preserves, the restrained gesture that affirms, I know myself, and I know I am not defined by how you treat me. In this space, a strength is born that doesn't depend on the world's justice, but on the wholeness you choose to cultivate, even when the world insists on ignoring you. 3. The metaphor of the unlocked door. Stop reacting. Start choosing. Not all disrespect deserves a response. And perhaps this is one of the hardest lessons to learn, because the natural impulse is to react, to defend yourself, to explain yourself. But often, reacting is exactly what the other expects, or what they use to continue hurting us. And that's where the deeper choice comes in. Not reacting by instinct, but acting by decision. Think of a door, your inner door. It has no lock, because you are accessible, sensitive, open, but there's something you can and should decide. Who enters, who stays, and who will never be invited again. Disrespect knocks on the door. It will always knock, but the decision to open it is yours. This metaphor isn't about isolation. It's about discernment. It's about realizing that your peace cannot be at the mercy of others' attitudes, that what others do reveals more about them than about you, and that choosing who deserves to remain close is a gesture of maturity, not coldness. The Stoic doesn't hide, but also doesn't surrender to just anyone. They know that firmness doesn't require shouting, that strength doesn't need revenge. They've learned to respond with presence, not impulsiveness, to filter before absorbing, to refuse without lowering themselves. So, the next time someone knocks on your door with disrespect disguised as a joke, with contempt disguised as sincerity, with emotional violence disguised as an opinion, remember, you don't have to allow entry. You can, with serenity, keep your door open, but your heart protected. Because your integrity is not for sale, nor is it at stake. It is a choice. And silent choice is freedom, the silent nobility of those who do not bow to contempt. There is something profoundly dignified in those who choose not to stoop to the level of those who try to diminish them, in those who remain whole in the face of contempt, in those who respond to disrespect, not with hatred, but with presence, not with noise, but with clarity. The truth is that disrespect, however unfair, can reveal more than just the other person's character. It points inward. It shows where we still need to strengthen boundaries, where there are still emotional holes waiting for approval, where we still seek, outside ourselves, that which only integrity can sustain. Seneca used to say that time reveals who is worthy of your energy. And perhaps the greatest demonstration of wisdom is this: not investing in what weakens you, not prolonging the bond with those who don't know how to handle delicacy, not insisting on conversations where there's only an echo. Epictetus spoke of the elegance of renunciation, and it exists. Renouncing retaliation, drama, and emotional games isn't weakness. It's a decision. It's self-care. It's self-love translated into silence, into absence, into distance. Because sometimes the greatest respect you can offer yourself is not to bow to those who cannot see. In the end, the respect that matters most is the one you build within yourself, the one that doesn't need to be confirmed by anyone. That doesn't depend on an audience, because it is born from your firmness in continuing to be who you are, even when the world tries to make you doubt it. And this respect, when it matures, becomes a shelter. It becomes an anchor. It becomes freedom. You no longer need to ask. You no longer need to prove, because you've learned over time and through pain that dignity is not begged for. It is sustained in silence, in peace, in you.